Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to another You Asked, I Answered. So in this video, I'm going to be answering the question that I got on Instagram the other day, and it's essentially, are we always going to have a shadow aspect of ourselves that we're needing to become aware of and love into the light? And I think this is a really awesome question, and I'm super excited to answer it. So, my perspective of this, and you might disagree with me, and there might be people who disagree with me, and that's fine. But from my experience and my perspective, what I have learned about what the shadow really is the shadow is simply the parts of ourselves that are inherent to who we are, that didn't get what they needed to grow, that aren't getting what they need to evolve and expand, that are being held back from their expression in some way because of false ideas about reality. So we're rejecting our personality, we're rejecting our desires for exploration and making mistakes and making messes and learning how to clean them up. This is the sort of trauma that humanity is facing right now, that most of our shadow is rooted, and we don't want to be our real selves and we don't want to make mistakes because humanity believes that to be our real self is dangerous and to make mistakes is wrong, and that to have pain is wrong, and the pain that comes from making mistakes is wrong. So this is where our shadow is coming from, is that we still believe that there can be something fundamental about ourselves that is wrong and bad, and that we have to fix, change, or alter who and what we are in some way in order to be happy and in order to be good and to get what we want. And we believe that, again, experimenting and making mistakes and trying things before we know what's going to happen and hurting ourselves and hurting others is wrong. This is why we have shadow. So, do I believe that we can get to a place where we no longer have those mindsets that stop us from expressing who we truly are and what we are in this moment, and can we and that allow us to go out and be in the process of creating what we want to create, of discovering what we want to discover, making messes, making mistakes, hurting ourselves, hurting others sometimes, and then learning how to clean that up, and in so doing getting closer to learning how to create what it is we initially set out to create. And that can be, like I say, a relationship, that can be a job, a vocation, that can be a piece of art, that can be anything where we don't actually know how to do it yet, and we're going to mess it up at first, and we're going to have pain. Can we get to a place where we are not inhibited in our expression of self and our expression of curiosity? I do. I think we can get there. So we're no longer working from discovering shadowed aspects of ourselves. So parts of ourselves we've already seen, parts of what we want to express that we're already aware of, that we're pushing down. However, I think there's always going to be parts of ourselves we have yet to become aware of. That so this is where it becomes, it's not a shadowed aspect of self. It's not a part of ourselves that we are not allowing to come into the light, and that is in self-destruct mode because we are trying to kill it. But rather, it's a part of ourselves that, because again, the self is constantly evolving, and this is why I think a lot of spiritual traditions and all these things, we have a hard time wrapping our fingers around who the self is and what the self is, and identity and ego and what is truly the self and what isn't, and the line is very blurry because, again, we can kind of look at it like we look at truth. Truth has an indestructible core that has a revolving, ever expanding, changing, growing kind of apparatus around it. So there is a core truth of who you are. These kind of fundamental, this is your root essence that is meant to be growing, evolving, changing, expanding for the rest of your life. So we're always going to be bringing new parts of ourselves forward. We're always going to be birthing new desires. Every single time we create something that gives us an awareness of how reality functions, that made us more complex, that then is going to birth a new desire. That is going to, then we have to go out into reality and struggle. We have to go out and make mistakes and break ourselves against reality. This whole new level of reality we weren't even aware of before the last creation informed us as that, right? Kind of think of it like you first desire to add, and then when you understand adding, then you desire to multiply. And then when you can multiply, you start doing even more complicated calculus. It's every step of the way leads you to an awareness of something you didn't even know was there before, right? Like a grade 1 student isn't aware of calculus. They become aware as they learn. So we can get to a place where we're no longer unearthing shadow. Parts of ourselves that I say that we've previously been aware of and have suppressed. Parts of our desire that we were previously aware of that we didn't go for. But that doesn't mean that we have full self-awareness, because the self is always going to be learning, growing, changing, evolving, and expanding. There's always going to be something new to discover about yourself, because every time you grow, every time you evolve, every time you expand, every time you express, you create something new for yourself to discover about yourself. Every time you go and create a desire, you set yourself up to be able to see something even greater, even bigger about reality that you don't know yet. So it's kind of a yes and no, right? It's yes, we can get to a place where we're no longer shadowed, where we're no longer working from I am actively or subconsciously suppressing who I am right now, what I am right now, that even if it looks, destructive or self-destructive or immature, that I've come to a place where I can allow myself to be myself all the time. I can allow myself to pursue my desires, and I can do it in a way that's, conscious. So I'm not, again, I'm going to hurt people. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to break myself against reality. That's going to happen. But I know how to learn from that. I know how to clean up the mess. I know how to see, okay, that's causing pain, so don't keep going down that road. I know how to switch directions. I know how to learn from my mistakes so that we're not operating in shadow anymore. Now we're operating in full consciousness. I am consciously going towards this thing I don't understand. I know I'm going to make mistakes. I'm consciously making mistakes. I'm consciously in pain, and I'm consciously dealing with that pain. It doesn't mean I'm wrong and bad. It doesn't mean I'm stupid. It doesn't mean I caused that pain on purpose. It means I didn't know what I didn't know. So what can I learn from the pain? And how can I apply that to what I want to inform me to move closer? You see? How can I bring these parts of myself that are immature, that are new, that are not totally put together and evolved? How can I bring them forward in gentle and loving and compassionate ways to let them grow, just like small children? How can I let myself play? This is really what this is about. So, yeah, we can definitely get to a place where it's not shadow anymore, where the newness and the experimentation and the breaking ourselves against reality and the trying things we've never tried before and the doing things we've never done before aren't from a place of shadow. They're being done consciously, where we're bringing ourselves, all these new parts of ourselves forward constantly, knowing we're never going to be complete. We're always going to be changing. We're always going to have a new part of ourselves to bring to the surface. And we can just learn to stop resisting it and to allow ourselves to do it and allow ourselves to process it and allow ourselves to grow into it. And that is my answer. And if you want to see, this is my little setup. I've been shooting YouTube videos today too, so super glamorous behind the scenes. That's my setup. Oh, and I have this microphone. That's it. Okay, so if you have another You Ask, I Answer, send it to me on Instagram, send it to me on YouTube. If this is fun for you, it's kind of fun for me. And I'll see you later. Mwah.